The cold wakes you before anything else does. Not a sound. The cold. It has found the gap at your shoulder where the fur has slipped. You do not open your eyes yet. You listen first. Wind, outside, moving hard over frozen ground. Somewhere near your feet, breathing that is not yours. Someone else in this shelter, curled the same way you are curled. Small, tight, saving whatever warmth the body still has left to give. The fire is almost gone. You know this without looking. You can feel it in the air, which has gone from warm to merely less cold. You will have to get up. You will have to put a bare hand into freezing air to feed the fire, and for a few seconds that will hurt more than almost anything else today. You do it anyway. You always do it. Outside, if you could see it, the world is white in every direction, and has been for months, and will be for months more. Somewhere out there is meat, if you are skilled enough and lucky enough to find it. Somewhere out there is a temperature that would kill you in under an hour if you walked into it wearing what you're wearing now. And still, people did this, for thousands of winters in a row. They did not just survive it. They had children in it, and taught those children to survive it too, and passed the knowledge forward long enough that eventually one of those children was your very distant ancestor. Right now, wherever you're watching this, you're warm, and you probably didn't even have to try. The heat just runs. There's a coat by a door somewhere that you didn't have to kill anything to make. There's food nearby that will still be there next week, no matter how cold it gets outside. Take all of that away. Just your bare skin, a scrap of shelter, and a winter cold enough to kill you in your sleep before you even woke up. That used to be normal, not for one bad season, for thousands of years in a row. So here's the question, and it's worth sitting with for a second before we answer it. How does a soft, hairless animal that grew up in the African heat survive the coldest weather this planet has ever thrown at a human being? Nothing about us is built for this. No fur, no blubber. No ability to slow the heart and sleep through the worst of it the way a bear can. Take the clothes off a human in real cold, and they have hours, not days. So here's where we're going. Shelter, and how a rearranged pile of bones can outperform a house. Clothing, and one invention so small it may be the reason you exist at all. Food, and a strategy for hunger that has nothing to do with willpower. And by the end, I want to leave you with something a little uncomfortable, that the cold may not have just been a threat our ancestors survived. It may have been the thing that made us who we are. Let's go. Move 1. Shelter. You'd think the answer is simple. Find a cave, get inside, wait out the winter. And sometimes that's exactly what happened. But caves are rare, and they don't move, and the animals you're hunting do move, following the herds across open country as the seasons change. So, across parts of Ice Age Europe, people built their own shelters, on open, treeless ground, in one of the coldest environments a human being has ever chosen to live in. At a site called Mizirik, in what's now Ukraine, archaeologists found the remains of dwellings built almost entirely from mammoth bones. Skulls stacked as a foundation, tusks curved into an arched frame, jawbones interlocked like tiles, layered over with hide and packed with earth and snow for insulation. This dates to roughly 15,000 years ago, and it is not a rough pile of bones somebody stumbled into for a night. It's engineering. The load-bearing skulls are arranged deliberately, heaviest and most stable pieces at the base, structure rising from there. A single mammoth's remains represent an enormous amount of accumulated material and labor. These structures use the remains of dozens of animals. This wasn't shelter thrown together in an emergency. It was a season's worth of planning, built to last. And inside, at the center, a hearth. Fire is old. Controlled use of fire likely goes back hundreds of thousands of years, long before anyone was building bone houses. But archaeologists digging up Ice Age fire pits in this region expected to find rough little fires. Instead, they found carefully built fireplaces. One of them had burned at over 600 degrees Celsius, well over 1100 Fahrenheit. When wood ran low out on the open land, people burned fat and bone instead and kept the fire alive regardless. Fire wasn't a comfort, it was the whole strategy in miniature. You don't fight the cold across the whole world. You build one small space where the cold doesn't reach, and you defend that space fiercely because your life depends on it. And that space depended on who was in it with you. The people who died first in a hard cold snap were usually the ones alone, not the weak, necessarily the isolated. A shelter with one person in it loses heat. A body can't replace on its own. A shelter with several people in it becomes its own furnace. Warmth passed back and forth all night without anyone trying. Living close to others wasn't comfort. In a winter like this, it was infrastructure. Move 2. Clothing. Here's a fact that took me by surprise the first time I read it, and I think it deserves to be more well known than it is. For most of human history, before roughly 40 to 50,000 years ago, people almost certainly draped themselves in hides. Wrapped, tied, layered, functional but loose, air gets in at every gap. In genuinely brutal cold, that's a real problem, because it's moving air, not still air, that pulls heat away from a body fastest. Then, something changes. At a site called Sunjir in Russia, a burial dated to roughly 34,000 years ago was found with over 10,000 small ivory beads, arranged on the skeletons in patterns that strongly suggest they were sewn onto fitted clothing, a tailored jacket, tailored trousers, clothing shaped to the body rather than wrapped around it. Shaped clothing requires something specific, a way to make a small controlled hole through tough material and pull thread through it, over and over, in a repeatable way. An eyed needle. Bone needles with a threaded eye start showing up in the archaeological record from roughly 40,000 years ago onward. And once they appear, they don't go away. They spread. They get refined. One researcher has called the sewing needle maybe the most important invention in human history, and it's hard to argue with him. Eventually, these needles end up in a sewing kit in your grandmother's house, essentially unchanged in principle for 40,000 years. Some researchers have proposed something genuinely striking here. Tailored, sewn clothing. Clothing you could seal at the wrist and the ankle that trapped a layer of still, warmed air right against the skin may have given the humans who had it a real survival edge over other, closely related groups living in the same brutally cold environments who apparently did not. A layer of trapped warm air against skin is a genuinely enormous difference in a place where wind is constantly trying to strip heat away. That's the second engineering move, not just covering the body, sealing it. Move 3. Food. Winter doesn't just bring cold. It brings scarcity. Fewer plants, migrating herds, long stretches where the next meal is not guaranteed. The strategy here wasn't willpower or toughing out hunger. It was storage, in more than one sense. Where the ground stayed frozen, meat could be cached directly in the permafrost, essentially using the landscape itself as a freezer, preserving a kill for weeks rather than days. And there's a strategy inside the body itself. Feasting heavily when a large animal was successfully killed, packing on fat reserves in the good weeks, was not indulgence. It was preparation for the weeks that would inevitably follow with far less food. The body's ability to store energy as fat and draw on it slowly was as much a survival tool as any spear or needle. It just happened to be built in already. None of this made winter easy. People still died in it. Children still died in it, more often than any of us would find bearable today. This isn't a story where the engineering solved everything, but it explains something that's easy to miss when you just picture cavemen enduring the cold. They weren't enduring it passively, they were solving it actively, with the same kind of layered problem-solving you'd recognize from any modern engineering project: shelter, insulation, energy storage, just built from bone, hide, and thread instead of concrete, foam, and nylon. So here's the reframe I promised you. We tend to think of the cold as an obstacle our ancestors survived, despite everything working against them. But there's a real argument that the cold was also a kind of pressure that pushed invention forward. The populations facing the harshest, most relentless winters are also the ones where we see some of the clearest evidence of new technology showing up: tailored clothing, engineered shelter, complex planning across seasons. Difficulty didn't just threaten survival. In this case, it may have manufactured the very innovations that make you, right now, a creature capable of living comfortably in places your body has no natural business surviving in at all. Which brings me to tonight. Somewhere in your home right now, there's a thermostat. A dial, or a screen, or an app on your phone. You adjust it without thinking, and heat simply arrives, and you never once have to put a bare hand into freezing air to keep your family alive until morning. That comfort didn't replace the ancient engineering. It's built directly on top of it. Insulation is still insulation. A sealed layer of trapped air is still the same principle whether it's goose down in a jacket or foam in your walls. We didn't abandon the strategy. We just automated it, so thoroughly that it became invisible. So, next time you're cold and you reach for the thermostat instead of a needle and thread, it's worth remembering. You're not doing anything they didn't already understand. You're just not the one holding the needle anymore.